CTech's been very, very shit lately. Like
That's what
to the
I've been
point, yeah,
hearing.
to the
Yeah.
point where like even before, like for me, I'm like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, I always been optimistic. I'm like, yeah, they're doing construction, but like if you go at the right time, you're fine. But lately, like in this past month alone, I had to drop off a couple of family members, pick up people, and I was like, yo, it is bad, bad. It's yeah. Like no longer is 2 hours enough. You probably have to go 3 hours
Oh
before
shit.
departure.
Got it. All
Yeah.
right.
Cause
Well, that's
like
good to know.
traffic is both ways, dude. Arrivals are departure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um
Honestly,
it,
at that point, I might drive to Angle Lake and just take the light
yeah,
rail, the one
yeah.
stop over.
Just go with her. Yeah.
I'll just go with her and then walk, and then I'll
Yeah.
just come back on the light rail to Angle Lake,
Yeah.
and then I can just go
Yeah.
from there.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Real Talk with ZTS, where we, as brothers, search for ways to share our voices while having a good time just talking, having those real talk conversations, our shared experiences, and reacting to random topics and articles. As we always say, we all have something to share, and we look forward to sharing and building that community of stories that we can all relate to. Now enjoy the episode.
How's it going with you?
Oh, it's going.
Yeah. Tiring day.
Yeah. Nah, I hear you. It was the first day of semester today for us, so
Yeah.
busy, busy, busy.
Mm.
And I think I ran out of fucks to give at some point today, which
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
yeah,
I bet.
everyone's on edge, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
For different reasons. I think it's been, I mean, first day jitters, kind of that kind of stuff, but then like, obviously I'm not going to name any places. If you know us and you listen to us, you'll know where I'm talking about. But man, campus decided to just lay people off yesterday, so that was
Oh,
crazy.
geez.
Yeah, so they laid off like 12 or 13 people, I think.
Are these like typically like temp workers anyways, or
No, I mean, let's just say there was a director in there,
uh-huh.
and then like a lot of other staff. And
Mm.
the crazy thing is, like, they've been saying they were going to lay people off probably for the last 9-10 months, and they
Yeah.
chose the day before the semester started, which was
Right.
crazy timing to me. But it was nuts. It was nuts. So very like down mood today.
Yeah, I bet.
And then there's also the fear tactic of like, it's not a tactic, it's just a fear at this point, but fear of people just being like, I'm next, like,
Yeah,
did
yeah.
I even show up to work today? Am I going to be handed
Right.
a box to pack up my desk? You know what I mean? So like,
Yeah.
so
No warning at all, huh? Besides 9 months ago.
yeah. Other than that, I mean, like, it's coming from like a state school in Washington, like, like you're supposed to technically like let the union know, because
Yeah.
some of these are union employees, like you let the union know 30 days in advance, like you have to make layoffs, you have to give a reason why.
Yeah.
And usually that's it. You don't have to necessarily give an employee 30 days notice if they're part of
Right.
the union. You have to give the union 30-day notice
Yeah.
when you're dealing with unions, obviously. And I'm sure people that listen to this, correct me if I'm wrong, but let's just say that California as well is different. Let's put it that way, right?
Hmm.
They have different labor laws altogether. Because
Right.
typically, most places will be like, oh, you have a severance package. Not necessarily the case in California. You don't always
Interesting.
get a severance package
Yeah.
when you lay someone off. So that's just some of the stuff that I've learned while I've been here. So
Right.
it's a little crazy. So I don't know if
Yeah.
these people got severance packages or if they were just like, you're done. Sorry.
Right.
It's been nice knowing you. You've been
Yeah.
given 10 plus years to this institution, but
It's
time to
tough,
go.
man. And we always talk about, respect for the employer on the other side, but it's
Yeah.
sometimes, we talked about this in many episodes, about like our generation and older, we're always about the 2 week notice, out of respect, even if you don't need 2 weeks, right?
Oh yeah.
I won't go into much further detail, but typically the 2 week notice, right? Stereotype. But then you got the younger generations like, no. And I hear them too, Um, when it comes to business, there's, uh in some ways there's no loyalty, right?
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, for our listeners, there's loyalty in some ways, but then other ways there's also no loyalties, especially when it comes to things that are owed to you. Nobody owes you anything, both parties, right? They
Hmm.
don't owe you anything besides what's required by law, which is paying you, and insurance or whatever is included with your benefit package. And you don't owe anything except, giving them your work, your skill, your knowledge on what you're hired for. But at the end of the day, man, you got to look out for yourself. They got to look out for themselves. When I say they, I'm not talking about a particular group of people. I'm talking about like the business, right?
Oh yeah.
Like,
For sure.
if I'm talking about Apple doesn't owe you anything, I'm not talking about specifically Tim Cook or his line of executives. I'm just talking about Apple as the company doesn't owe you anything. So like everyone has to go about their business, and so both vice versa. There's no catch for everyone. Now, you can argue, oh, that doesn't make sense. You got to give loyalty to something. I'm like, no, dude, I'm talking about bigger picture. Small picture, yeah, you got to give kind of your loyalty where like you're working hard for the team, you're working hard for the business because, it's about your growth as well. It's about the company's growth. If they do well, you get compensated well, vice versa, right? But I'm talking about in general, like, don't give your firstborn to your business, is what I'm trying to say, sure, give it your sweat and sometimes blood and tears, right, to get a project going, but don't give your soul, right? Don't give your firstborn, right? It's not worth it. Like, um but again, easier said than done. But in general, when we think about big picture stuff, right, there's no loyalty when it comes to business and work. It's you got to do what's healthy for you.
Yeah. And especially now too, it's like you definitely see more
All
of
right.
the.
Give me a second.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's always Axel. Axel is always the reason. This dog, I swear. But for listeners, it's just one of those things. It's very
Yeah.
much we we give our blood, sweat, and tears, and like when you go at generational, um, you know, back to boomers and all that stuff, they'll tell you like, no, you should stay in your place, like show the loyalty, you'll get rewarded. That's not always the case, at least not anymore, right? Um,
Yeah.
mental health is at an all-time high. All of that stuff, depression, and it's one of those things like we get burned out so easy now, in just like the modern
Oh yeah.
at this point, and there's just so much stuff. And don't get me wrong, like obviously, our parents and their parents and all that had to put up with their bullshit of that time and everything, but times are different. Times are different
Yeah.
now. And that's just something we have to consider. You don't have to be married to your job, to your well, I was going to say career, but yes, career. Yes, stick with your career, but you don't
Yeah.
have to stay with one company.
No. No.
And that's why you see most people don't necessarily stay longer than a couple of years at this point, because honestly, in this time, today, like the only way for us to even get like any sort of raise or anything like that is you got to look outside your institution, your company, whatever it is. Because that's just how business works now. It's like you could be there for 5 years. You can be ready to promote into a position, but they might put a position out there, and even if you were to promote, they're gonna give you a certain salary based on what it is in their system, versus if they hire someone that's outside coming in for the same position but that has no knowledge of that company or institution,
Yeah.
they're going to get more money because they're an outside hire. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
just it's one of those things. So that's why we see a lot of people bouncing around in traditionally you look at that as on a resume and you're like, why did you bounce around so much? I'm like, well, I got a better opportunity. That's what it is. Like, oh, you don't show loyalty to the company. I'm like, to be completely fair, it's one of those things. It's a business. With or without me, they're going to continue to move forward. You know what I mean?
Right.
I can give my
Right.
blood, sweat, and tears, but I could, knock on wood, get hit by a bus tomorrow. And you know what?
Yeah.
They're gonna persevere, and they're gonna find someone to replace me in as quickly as possible. And you
Yeah.
know what? They're gonna keep moving forward. Like,
Yeah.
the world doesn't stop if you don't show up to work. It keeps
Yeah.
going. You know what I mean? So that's
which is sad, but yeah.
it is sad. It is
Yeah.
for sure. Like, it's unfortunate, but that's just the reality of it.
Right.
Which is, it does suck. Especially when you when you work in the state system or whatever it is. Most people in the state system, they usually stay there for a while because
Mhm.
once you get past a certain time frame in the state, then you're looking
Mhm.
at pensions. You know what I mean? You got to like, oh
Yeah.
wait, I need to consider this. So like if I ever get back to, and I think we've talked about this in previous episodes, like if I ever get back to Washington, we decide to move back or do whatever in the future, who knows when that might be or if that happens.
Right.
But if that is the case, like that's a goal, like way out there, right? That's a long-term goal, is eventually get
Right.
back to Washington. But if I get back to Washington, I have double-digit years in the state system. So it might be towards the later end of my career, the tail end of it, to where like I go back and like, you know what, I'm actually this many years away from like receiving a pension with the
Yeah.
state. So that's how I'm going to end off like my career, and is moving
Yeah.
back to like Washington and finishing that off, and so that I qualify for that pension,
Yeah.
because I've already put in more than half of like the allotted service time to get that at this point.
Right.
For me personally, right? So that's just how it is. But you see a lot of people in the state system, if they're there for however many years, they're
Mhm.
probably going to, the odds are they're probably going to stay there until they at
Right.
least get that pension. You know what I mean?
For a lot. Yeah. Get invested into that pension. Um. Yeah. That and then it's like they never retire, and then when they do, it's like
Oh yeah.
working for that, definitely. But not everyone gets the opportunity to do that and get a pension. I remember uh, pensions are going away, right? Just like every
Oh yeah.
for most stuff is going away. But yeah, well, I mean, I hope you're not stressing too much, and things are
Yeah.
at least falling your way just fine.
Yeah. It's one of those things. I'm not necessarily stressing too much, but like
Yeah.
it's everyone around me that's stressing too much. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. And then
And
it
for good
affects.
reason. For good reason.
Oh yeah.
Like they have that feeling of they could be next. Cause like, let's be honest, like it's like, oh, you could cut an admin assistant. Oh, you can cut whatever. All they did was enter numbers into a spreadsheet.
Right.
But when you talk about like, oh, we got rid of directors, you're like, oh shit, no one is safe
Yeah.
at this point.
No one.
They're
Yeah.
just at this point, they're probably looking at a list and going from bottom up. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
but that's just the type of situation it is. And yeah, it's one of those things, like people are stressed and then they take it out on other people. And
Yeah. Yeah.
like
It's just
I had to
unfortunate.
yeah, it is unfortunate. Like I had to
Yeah.
deal with that a couple times today, where
Yeah.
like, I got thrown under the bus for something that wasn't even
Yeah.
my fault. I was just like, what the, okay, that's fine. I mean, if you want to put something on me and try to be manipulative or
Yeah.
whatever it is, and say one thing to me and then go to someone else and say that, oh, like I didn't do my job. And then
Yeah.
I get brought into a conversation of like, why didn't you? And I'm like, I have literally the email right here. I don't know what you want me to do.
Right.
So I was like, it's one of those things. I'm like, look, I get it. You're on edge, but like, chill the fuck out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's one thing. The stereotype is that people lose their compassion, right, and empathy, and because they gotta save their own ass. I mean,
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. It's just,
Yeah.
it's one of those things. Again, to your point, you got to look out for yourself. But, at the same time, you don't have to go on like a rampage of like other things. Cause let's be honest, people notice that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh yeah.
Like
Yeah.
those eyes, that are watching, that are making those calls, like if they get wind of whatever you're doing, and you're pushing the wrong buttons, guess what? You're probably next. Let's be
Yeah.
honest here. You don't want to say that, but
You're right.
and on the flip side, like, some people that you never wish any bad juju or anything like on people.
Yeah.
You may not get along with people at a workplace, but you never wish for them to get laid off
Oh,
or anything like that. You know what I
no,
mean?
100%.
Like livelihood and all of that
Yeah.
is still a thing. So it's like, it does suck. Like I knew obviously some of the people that did get laid off, and I was just like, damn, that sucks. I didn't necessarily have like this person over here. I didn't have the best relationship with. Like,
Right.
they got a family. They got all the people they got to take care of. Like, I don't wish that upon anybody.
No.
Like, just because we butt heads don't mean, like you wish ill will on them. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's just, yeah, it's one of those things. So it's interesting to see. Like, I haven't been in a situation like this in a while where I've seen like just people get laid off around me, kind of thing. Not since what, COVID almost, right? Beginning of COVID or the pandemic. And honestly, that was obviously another way to force retire a lot of people. I think we've talked about that plenty of times as well.
Just, we have.
Where that was kind of a situation where like, well, I think it's time.
Right. A lot of people, man.
Yeah. It's like and it was a reason to, you know what I mean? It was just like, well, you've been great and we really do love you, but we don't think it's in the best interest that you come back.
Fortunately, where I work, it held strong, and we didn't have, if any layoffs. But
I think you saw it more in like, I want to say obviously places that had a lot of older demographics, right? Or in like kitchens and that kind of stuff. And that was kind of the excuse to use to like, well, you know what I mean? You didn't see it too much in like our fields necessarily.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of things like nonprofits and all of that got hit.
The opposite of my field was the folks who were older, who were already at retirement age, but they still enjoyed working. They self quit because they were like, you know what? Pandemic, I think, is a perfect time to reevaluate the rest of my life, and I would rather spend time with loved ones. So so I was fortunate where the seniors, the veterans in my workplace, self chose to quit during the pandemic.
I definitely found a lot of people that did that, or I knew people that did that. So it was more just like, oh, all right, well, enjoy your retirement, man.
Yeah.
I hope you find something that you like doing.
Yeah.
Because to the pandemic's point, like a lot of people that weren't, like you said, like weren't ready necessarily because they loved it, realized like, oh, it is kind of nice waking up and not doing anything.
Right.
Or doing what I want to do. Right. I want to do yard work. I'm going to do yard work.
Right.
Not having to wait to you do it on the weekends because, you get home and you're exhausted, especially if you work at 410 or whatever it might be. But yeah, so it's definitely self-retire in the sense of like, they did that because they got a glimpse of it during that first year and a half of pandemic, and they realized like, oh, maybe this is something I will enjoy.
Well, hopefully it all shakes out for you. Well, not you, but like people around you and where you work.
I'm sure it will. Who knows? We could be affected next, and who the heck knows what that looks like.
Right. Yeah, nothing's guaranteed, man.
Oh yeah. Never guaranteed. So you just gotta take it in stride, you know what I mean? So I know a lot of people were just like, well, I wasn't looking for work, but now I feel like I have to. I'm like, okay,
jeez,
I get it.
Yeah.
Stomach's churning, all the things. Like, it's rough.
Yeah. Well, just keep it a short episode. We got a couple articles to react to. It's time for that segment. Gonna jump into it. I think I'll save this one for last. Here's another. I'll go to the second article. Just kind of sticking to the school theme. Um, Northeastern University, I think it's Chicago, right?
I
Northeastern. Yeah.
Is that Northeastern?
Where
Where's
is
Northwestern? Is that
Northeastern University? It is
Are you sure
Boston.
that's not in Boston? Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Boston, right?
Boston.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say I feel like Northeastern because Northwestern is in Chicago.
Northwestern. Um,
Northwestern, I think, is in Chicago.
I always thought
Northeast.
Northwestern. I thought Northwest. Yeah, Illinois.
Oh,
Okay,
Illinois.
there
Okay.
is a Northwestern. I always
Yeah,
thought
yeah.
Northwestern was like one of those online type schools, that you see promoted on TV, right?
Oh, yeah. But they
But I
have
guess
a
is yeah.
a football team. The
Oh yeah. Okay.
NCAA.
Okay. Good point. Good point.
No, yeah,
Um.
it's well, no, it's like when you think of like GCU. GCU is like, they're like, oh man, their online program is great, but they're
Yeah.
D1. They still have all the sports.
Yeah. I did not know that.
Um,
Um.
are they D1 or D2? No, they're D1. They're D1.
Yeah. Which is funny because the article leads off with Northeastern, the university whose arch rival is somehow not Northwestern. So but anyways, this is pretty cool because we talk about school in many different episodes, about our experience going to college, going to university, whatever, right? And
Mhm.
whether it's needed, whether it's not, and if we can do it all over again, what would we do different? So this kind of leads into it, but it's interesting because there you go. In the article, it specifically states is in Boston. But the school though have now reached an Ivy League admission rate, where they're only accepting about almost 6% of applicants um, a year compared to 10 years ago when they were almost accepting 32%. And so,
Mm.
but check it out though. This is not like this might be a good trend. And check it out though. So the question is that why is it much harder to get in Northeastern, a typical school that's not an Ivy League? Is because the university now, especially Northeastern, who might be leading the way for many other schools, is leading what they call a co-op program, where they kind of allow students to sign up for basically the course that you're taking on. Co-op, you are like basically cooperating with a required internship, which is basically a full-time paid internship while you're going to class. So no longer are you just going to school and you have to kind of, job hunt yourself for internships. The school is partnering with a lot of different jobs and companies and kind of allowing the students to take on this, co-op role. And also these aren't just like, like um Beacon Plumbers or your local laundromat that's like requiring. These are actually big companies, like you're talking about, like Google, Tesla, local hospitals that are like aiming to help these students like get off the ground. And then check out these stats. It appears to be working because according to the article, according to Northeastern, at least 95% of their graduates are employed full-time after graduations. So this is pretty awesome, man. Even though they're accepting way less people, but they're kind of bucking the trend now that college is no longer overrated, where college can now quite possibly help you succeed in getting a career with that degree. Um, I mean, I know that's how I did it, right? Like, but I had to do it on my own. I had to make sure while I was still in school, go find those internships and all that. So I think even though it's harder to get in college, but now it kind of gets back into that traditional stereotype that you need to go to school, or you don't need to, but going to school now is not going to lead you nowhere. It'll at least get you to a job that you'll be interested in.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I think that's pretty cool, man. I mean, we talked about it before, at least from our perspective, where it's like, hey, man, college, It's not the same anymore. Going to school won't guarantee you a job. It's about like, I mean, we talked about it, right? Like if school's not for you, but you want to get into school to get a high paying job or a job that you want to focus on, you go to, we talk about trade school, right? Like getting your hands
Mhm.
dirty while you're going to school. you know, why can't you do the same with other fields, right? Like other non non-trade fields, right? So I think this is cool, man. It sucks if it makes it harder to get in school, but if more schools will follow this trend, hey, I think it will make the world go around. Because think about it. If you got like big companies like Google, Tesla, local hospitals, right? Wouldn't that
Mhm.
inspire more students to go into those fields, right? Tech, mechanical engineering, um, doctor, right? But
Mhm.
it also keeps the economy going, right? Like, why wouldn't you want to work for like and bring new ideas to Google and Tesla now, right? Because like, again, we're talking about our editorial earlier in the beginning of this episode, right? You don't owe loyalty to Google or Tesla, and they don't owe loyalty to you. They could cut you as soon as they feel like redoing their stocks. But why wouldn't you feel the other side of loyalty, right? This is for our listeners who are angry at us about talking about loyalty. Yes, there's no loyalty big picture, but there's a loyalty in making sure you grow in your skills, right? And so there's a balance in terms of loyalty. So you keep Google going strong, Tesla going strong, but at the same time you're developing this resume. So I don't know, man. When I read that, I was like, that might keep the world going around, for everyone, right? Like I said, like this would be a dumb program if like they were partnering like, with your local plumbing, like I mean, plumbing is still a very high paid job. So I'm not saying anything wrong about plumbing, but I'm saying like, it's instead of you going to a specific trade school for plumbing, being an electrician, etc., you know, you could inspire more people to get into the STEM field, right?
Mhm.
Um, and not have to worry about, oh, I I beat myself up going through this really tough field with nothing to show for it. But now you got something to show for it where you could get more people interested. So I think this is a good trend, and maybe Northeastern might be setting the trend for this, because think about us, like us older folks who maybe never thought about going back to school for any reason because we didn't need to, but now maybe it's like, hey, I want a career change. I'm 40, I'm getting close to 50, but I can now get into a good school, and maybe for a year or how many years I need to get my certificate or degree, get into an internship right away. I mean, that that is a good selling point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
But yeah, so speaking of good school news, that's I think that was a good one.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think so.
Last article of the night. Not to put it in a damper mood, but I thought this was interesting. Did you hear about a couple weeks ago? Unfortunately, the couple who went to Disney World, and then his wife, you know, passed away because she accidentally or she was served something she was deathly allergic to. Do you remember about that?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I did hear about
And
this.
then the husband was suing Disney, and because it was a Disney owned restaurant in Disney World, like in the theme park, and he was suing them because clearly they told the people this is what she's allergic to. Can you do that? And they're like, yeah, yeah. Oh, I'm, like, I'm just kind of like
Paraphrasing. Yeah, I got you.
paraphrasing, and and then so she was served it, and yeah, she was definitely allergic and couldn't be revived or saved in time, and sadly passed away. But the husband started suing Disney, but Disney said, they were like, we see your record that you subscribe to Disney Plus, and because you did that, in our fine print, it says that you can't sue us for anything anywhere, right? And so, I mean, it could, I mean, there's a lot of questions right here. Um, um, but quick update. Apparently, the husband's fighting hard with his lawyers, and as of I want to say a couple of days ago, as um Disney lawyers and Disney actually um they're like kind of like going back on their word, and now are gonna allow this lawsuit to happen, not because they're confident, but because they're like, fuck, like, okay, maybe this isn't the best thing that we did, you know so I'll probably provide an update weeks from now. Hopefully something beautiful happens, or a good thing happens for the husband. But while we're waiting for that, dude, I know, like, our generation, like me and yours generation, I don't know how it is for the younger generation, but we always are like, skip the fine print, right? Especially like if we're downloading an app or something like that. Obviously, don't skip the fine print if you're doing something major, like signing some legal papers, right? Like buying a house or whatever. But in general, right? Like, you're applying for a credit card, you're subscribing to Netflix, you're um opening an Amazon account or whatever, right? Like, you
Mhm.
kind of just skip through the terms and conditions and just sign and say, yeah, 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 whatever. Right. And
Yeah.
then when it comes to bite you in the ass, kind of like this, where like Disney put in their contracts, you sign up to Disney Plus, which has nothing to do, by the way. Disney Plus is a streaming app, has nothing to do with a theme park, with dangers that you might suffer. But because you sign up for their streaming services, it's like an umbrella that they try to write to protect like everything. It's like I don't know. I'm trying to think of an extreme example. It's like you sign up for you know um for Netflix, or for yeah, like the Food Channel network, right? I don't know. Let's say there's an app for it, and you
Mhm.
sign up for the app, and you're watching I don't know, Gordon Ramsay cook something, sharing a recipe, and you cook something and it turned out horrible. It's like them saying that you can't sue me for any reason. I don't know. Yeah, you know where I'm getting at.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah. Um but yeah, and a lot of people will be like, "Oh yeah, but it doesn't mean like he won't get anything out of it. It's just that he won't be able to protect others from this happening again, right? That's what the point of the lawsuit. It's not for him to get it settled, right? It's to him to fight for other people so that this doesn't happen again. Yeah, you might argue, oh, he's just trying to get more money out of it, but no, it doesn't matter. The lawsuit is to change the rules to protect other people from it not happening again, because because specifically the terms of use when you sign up for Disney Plus is that you can't sue them. That the only way to settle is through arbitration, meaning that it's Disney's ball the court for them to settle it how they want to settle it, right?
Mhm.
Um, in which is in private, so they can't like take it to court. So so you're not gonna like they're not like gonna kill someone and then just be like, oh, too bad,
Yeah. Yeah.
live with that regret. Um, so you'll still get some sort of settlement to help, but it's like the point of the lawsuit, which this husband's trying to fight for, is to prevent this from happening again. So,
Yeah.
uh, so we'll see.
That's
I don't know why
yeah.
that was so funny. We're not laughing about the article, but just laughing about someone dying at Disney World. They're just like, well, you know,
Yeah.
um, we're not gonna help, not even our service members. You gotta carry that dead body out of here yourself. Like, dude. Um but yeah, I think it's crazy. I hope something comes out of it that is beneficial to everyone, involved, right? But I don't know, man. It goes to show. Maybe read the terms and use a little closer. When you
I
buy that new iPhone 16, yeah, is coming out, and you're setting up your new iPhone, but you scroll through the terms and use because you're like, yeah, yeah, whatever. Fuck this. I just want to open my apps. I don't know, man. Maybe Apple's like, I don't know. Um, yeah.
I mean, you have a chance to look at it I feel like every
You
year
do.
you get that like long list of emails of like, we've updated our terms and conditions. Like,
True, but you know,
you know what I mean though?
I will be surprised if let's just do United States population, and let's just do the population of everyone who has an iPhone, right? With no hard numbers, but I would say, you know, in general, I would be surprised if 10% of the United States population actually reads every term of use for whatever they do, like
Oh,
all
yeah.
the terms of use.
Oh
I
yeah,
would
absolutely.
be surprised. 10%, which is a lot. I would be surprised. I feel like it's so much less than that. I feel like
Oh yeah, I definitely going to be
3%, 2%
Yeah,
at most. 3%
who actually
is
reads that? Let's be
yeah,
honest.
yeah. I mean, you know, there's certain things that uh I'll read, right? I mean, like, you know, I've seen some companies now which are really good where to protect themselves, they really, you can't just say that you read it. They actually have to force you to kind of scroll through, you know, each section.
Yeah.
But come on, man. You're still scrolling quickly through that shit. You're not reading it.
Oh yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah. Keep you updated if I see a new article about it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I'd be
Um,
interested to see where this one goes.
Yeah. All right. Well, short and sweet today. Go take a mental break. I think just speaking in general for all of us. Um that's all I got for today. Any final thoughts for call it good night?
No, I think I'm good. Yeah. No
Yeah,
crazy thoughts for me.
yeah. Read your term of use. Just,
Yeah, I mean that's yeah, that would make sense.
yeah.
Make sure you read everything. No, just kidding.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, thank you. As always, we appreciate y'all for listening. We enjoy doing this. So as we're signing off, we like to say keep talking with each other, keep thinking together, keep growing with one another, continue to love and show each other compassion. You know, life is never easy. Have a good night. We'll see y'all next time.